the SIG, and I'll be moderating this session. Today's webinar is slightly different and unique to what we have done in the past. This is something new we are trying out. It's actually Sarah's suggestion in the last roundtable we had. And what we're going to do here is we'll have Sarah and Summer will be showcasing their 3D printing labs. Our first presenter is Sarah Rimini, who is a MR technologist and instructor of radiology at the Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine, as well as the program director of both the Radiology 3D Lab and the MRI Virtual Operations Center for the Geisinger Health System. In her role, Sarah leads an elite group of MRI and CT technologists in the process of on-screen medical reconstructions and remote MRI scanning. Additionally, she segments, designs, and 3D prints patient-specific medical models to aid in pre-surgical planning, patient and learner education, surgical simulation, and surgical aid tools. Sarah is an active member and contributor of the RSNA 3D Printing SIG, SME Medical Advisory Board, and the American Society of Mechanical Engineering 3D Printing medical work groups. And we also have Summer Decker, who is the Director of 3D Applications Lab, Applications Divisions in the Department of Radiology at the University of South Florida, Morsani College of Medicine. She's an associate professor for the Morsani College of Medicine and also serves as the vice chair of research and innovation for the Department of Radiology. She utilizes 3D modeling and printing to create patient-specific models to assist in surgical planning, simulation, and education. During the COVID pandemic, Dr. Decker led a team that designed and developed a 3D printing nasopharyngeal swab for COVID diagnostics to address the national crisis in testing due to global supply chain shortages. This resulted in a large multi-site clinical trial, and millions of UCSF health and also Northwell Health design swabs used in over 56 countries. Additionally, she has won several humanitarian awards, including the Arthur P. Gold Foundation 2021 Champion of Healthcare Award, as well as the Foam Labs Impact Award for her work's impact on humanity and healthcare through 3D technology. Sarah, can you move the slide, please, for me? Yeah, it's all yours, Sarah, so please go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Adnan. Thank you for the SIG for allowing this idea to come into fruition, and thank you to Summer for being my partner in crime in this one. But hi guys, I'm sure you all are familiar with me and my normal spiel, but I figured this would be kind of neat to give people the opportunity to still see our 3D printing labs during these difficult times of being able to travel and things like that. I know when we established our lab, a huge part of getting the information was going to different labs and seeing how they operate and seeing what worked and what didn't. So hopefully out of this, you all get some information that can be a resource to you. So there we go. Just a rundown of our health system. If you would be coming to visit, we're kind of in central Pennsylvania here, and radiology is in the heart of our main hospital in Danville, Pennsylvania. And I just wanted to say as a disclaimer, this was all filmed on my phone on a random Tuesday. You're going to see some shaking around, you're going to see me moving, but I just wanted to show it as kind of raw as possible if you were to physically just come visit the lab. So here I am walking through one of our main entrances. This is the Hospital for Advanced Medicine. And it's really neat since we're in such a rural area, they kind of highlighted some local farms as art as well. So I just wanted to show that. As you come to outpatient radiology, we have a nice little display case out front. This just goes over what 3D imaging and 3D printing is for our patients, so they understand this is something that we offer here. And then we did a nice display case of not crazy anomalies or anything, but normal bones, normal organs, and just explaining where they are in the body and what they do, so the patients kind of have a little more understanding. This was probably the most difficult thing for me to film whenever I was doing this, because this is the busiest hall in the hospital and someone's always staring at this case, which I love seeing people staring. but it was kind of difficult to get nobody around for this one. So it was just a neat little video to show that we highlight our 3D printing lab here. Also in radiology, we have everything else. So X-ray, fluoro, CT, MR, ultrasound, nuke med, and DEXA. I'm responsible for 3D imaging, 3D printing, and the MRI Virtual Operations Center. So our 3D imaging lab is usually comprised of 10 technologists and CT or MR certified, and they're processing studies 24/7 throughout our whole, throughout the health system. So any CTAs and MRAs that come through. During COVID, we kind of have them all working from home except one on each shift. The person was in the restroom for this one, or you would have seen her in this, but this also houses our 3D scanners. We do our consultations for 3D printing in here, as well as this is where people come to pick up the completed models they have. And then just another nice little display case. We kind of like to have some ideas on hand so that if someone comes in for a consultation, they can feel exactly what the material is going to feel like and see the colors that we can offer them and things like that. So that's one of our big departments. Down the hall is 3D printing. It's a very small room, but we have 7 printers in here. So we have 4 different print technologies. We'll go through those. So we have the 3D System CJP 460 binder jet technology, where it prints on the left side of the machine, and the right side is the compressed air to clean off that excess powder. And I'm just gonna go through this, show you that. Nice little display case of things as well. Our next printer is the Stratasys Objet 260 Connex 3. That's a material jetting printer, and it looks like there are some models on there to be taken off. We have a lead technologist that is learning 3D printing, as well as a senior high school co-op student, that they are the main ones that are doing the post-processing and the maintenance on these scanners, or on these printers, sorry. Then this furthest one in the back is the Ultimaker 2. This is our very first printer that we started with. We lobbied Radiology to purchase this, and we tried to show off what we could do with it. And that's pretty much the flagship printer for our lab, and it helped us develop this whole program. We liked it so much that we purchased the Ultimaker 3, which is a dual extruder material extrusion system, so then you can get 2 colors or a water-soluble material. And then we're working on a multicolor system, the Mosaic palette, so we can leverage these printers for multicolor prints. So we have that hooked up to another Ultimaker 2. We're just kind of in the planning processes with those. And then the other things that were just randomly sitting in there, figured I'd go over. There's some random shapes and coils and things. We're going to be putting those in silicone and using it as an ultrasound trainer for measurement correlation. And then our other 2 printers we have are Form 3 and Form 2. We primarily use those for biocompatible cutting guides, as well as some really high definition single material prints. And this video was too long for one slide, so I split it up in 2, which is kind of nice to go into material and spare part storage. We had to really utilize this space as well as we could because it's so small. So we got some really good custom cabinets in that hold all of the materials for all of the different printers, as well as any spare parts or any kind of maintenance, consumables, anything you need in there. And like I said, we also have like a little display case in here. This is also to show them the different materials, the different colors, the different options they have when people are touring to do like a consultation on a model. And then I think it just goes back through the print lab area, and it just shows how small of an area it is and how well utilized it is for the size. So we are in the process of developing a larger lab that's going to house all of these departments. But for now, this is what we have. So just use it as efficiently as possible. We have a very small post-processing room or closet, maybe. It houses everything, and it's our wet lab, and it has the water jet clean station. We have the form cure and the form washes in there. It looks like they're sanding a model down the day that I recorded. Clean station, buffers, sanders, Dremels, literally anything that you would need to post-process is in this room. And the fact that we keep it in this room is because it has filters and ventilation, as well as eye wash and safety protocols in it for anything that they would have to encounter. And then coming soon, this is our MRI Virtual Operations Center, which doesn't have anything to do with 3D printing, but it's under me, so I figured I would just highlight this as well. So this is going to be MRI technologists that are sitting in this main area that will be able to remotely scan and remotely link into any of our 17 Siemens MRI scanners through the system. They'll be able to provide remote scanning assistance to these technologists, as well as if there's call-offs or FMLA or COVID comes back up again, let's hope not, but if we have staffing issues, we are able to support them. Some MRI scans on the walls, and that's actually my brain on the wall there. I figured I'd highlight that, and a 3D printed wall sconce that I developed and designed. And then we have our senior high school co-op student is in here, and he's putting that 3D printer together. And that's pretty much my lab. So I just want to say thank you, and I'm going to potentially pass this off to Summer.
Thank you, Sarah. This is really awesome.
Thanks.
All right, well, hopefully everybody can see my screen now. My name is Dr. Summer Decker, and I am the Director of 3D Clinical Applications here at the University of South Florida, Morsani College of Medicine and Tampa General Hospital. I'm going to find it interesting to follow up Sarah, who's talking about small spaces, when you see my space. So it'll be very interesting. So I'm going to show you a little bit of video of our facilities here. My team, we are housed here at Tampa General Hospital, which is what you see here, and in the USF facility, but we also do cases for Moffitt Cancer Center, James A. Haley VA, and All Children's Hospital, Johns Hopkins, and a number of other hospitals in our region and around the country. So we're kind of the hub. We are not a system. TGH is a single hospital in that regard, but I'll get a little background as we go through. Like Sarah, most of this was done on my phone, except for this awesome shot, which was done in a helicopter, and I cannot claim credit for that. That's the hospital's shot, and so I did not go in a helicopter for you guys. Sorry about that. But we are located in Tampa Bay, which is, for those of you who are not familiar, West Central Florida. I like to say USF did not get called it got called USF because University of West Central Florida doesn't have the same ring to it. So we are kind of central on the west coast of Florida. And we are actually on an island in the middle of Tampa Bay, which of course is the brightest place to put a level 1 trauma facility, especially in a hurricane haven like us. Our ER that you actually can see here, back that up just a second so you can see, is actually up on the multiple stories up because of the potential for hurricanes, which apparently we might have one this weekend. So it's always an adventure here. It is sitting in an island near downtown Tampa, and it houses the hospital and also the USF Health or Morsani College of Medicine. We also have a nursing program, pharmacy, physical therapy, and public health, all in here. So we also have a main campus in North Tampa, which is where the academics mostly are. But this is our teaching hospital and affiliated hospital. Our hospital is, as I mentioned, is a level 1 trauma facility. Our life flight actually handles all of the 23 surrounding counties. So we do have a pretty big range. We've been partnered as USF Health and TGH since 1971, so it is our academic partner. And so, in fact, we further just established our relationship even more within the last couple of months now. So we've married, if you will. We have about approximately 1,050 beds at this one facility. Approximately a little bit over 8,000 team members. There are about 50 buildings system-wide. And throughout that, between our inpatient facilities and our outpatient facilities, we have about 23 imaging facilities. We are the #1 hospital in Tampa Bay, and often the #1 in the state of Florida. We like to rival Mayo Clinic, Jacksonville, and it goes back and forth. So we, like I said, very big here in the central portion of Tampa. So You may be more familiar with our hospital for some of our more adventurous activities in the last few weeks and months. We are famous for Gasparilla, which is our pirate festival, which is a giant pirate ship that goes sailing past and is actually housed right outside the hospital. But you may have seen this fantastic shot of our Super Bowl parade with our hospital there in the background and Tom Brady throwing the Lombardi Trophy. We are lucky to be able to sit and look out the windows or kind of go outside and watch all of this go on. Also, kind of more popular here is our two Stanley Cup wins that we just had, and we actually have dive teams on hand in case any of those fancy trophies go into the water in front of our hospital. Here, these are some of our players, and they like to ride around on jet skis with the trophy out front of the hospital. But we all love it. We love standing out there, and they always come up and thank us for our activities over the last years or so. But yes, that's where our hospital is and where we have nationally gotten some recognition in the last few months. In order to kind of give you an idea, we are, this is the kind of the emergency section of our hospital, but we have this building on the far right, which is the USF Health building. It is actually our clinical building for our outpatient clinical, where, you know, if you want to come in and have primary care or whatever. This is our facility here. And so it is a full spectrum of clinics in the building, and this is where our lab is actually housed. So while we're throughout the entire hospital complex and we drive all over town to our other facilities, we really are mainly housed here in this USF clinic building. As you can imagine, with space on an island, it is at a premium. And so we have to be very creative. As Sarah was mentioning, being creative, we became really good at that and how to utilize the space that we can. There are no other labs in this building. It is all clinics. So it took a hard sell for them to convert some of the space for us. But here you have some of our team. You even have our COVID team. They're waving at you guys when I was filming earlier this week. And as you come in, we have imaging. We are the South Tampa Center for Advanced Healthcare. We have imaging right here on the floor. You can also see a friendly face there. That's Jonathan Ford, our technical director. So we have a women's health center. We have some research going on in the building and mostly clinics. Our imaging center here, which is one of our outpatient facilities. This is USF Radiology, our imaging facility. And these are my real heroes here. These are our CT techs, our MR techs, and really we have the most incredible staff. And I chose to stay at USF because of this incredible imaging team, and we really couldn't do any of this without them. So I asked them to wave for you guys because they're the real champions of all of this. Our lab is housed within radiology. There's lots of quiet space for consults. Surgery, neurosurgery, neurology is all around us. So their offices are right around us, which makes it wonderful for really quick meetings, as we know. And so we have them, they know exactly where to find us. And so they come right in and sit down and, you know, just start talking about ideas or a case that's come up. So we're very centrally located. They know how to get to us. Sometimes that is a downside, I will admit. Here we actually have a glass case, much like Sarah's team does. We find that as she was mentioning, when you're trying to do a consult, when you're trying to talk to someone, having a bunch of samples of different things that you could do really help them kind of come up with ideas of like, oh, I want that, that material, that color, or I need it to do this. And having something like this has really been a godsend because it makes it a lot easier to have that conversation when we're not just speculating. So here we also have two offices. One is Dr. Jonathan Ford. He's our technical director for our team. So that's his office. Pass by my office. Yes, I have a Vegas sign. Proud of it. And this is our lab. We have done a number of patents with our collaborators for a number of medical devices, and so we have those on display. We have a number of dedicated workstations, and here we tend to use Origin because They're really great video game heavy engines. So great visuals and video cards. I don't make any money off of Origin, but that's kind of what you will see. I am the Mac user in the room, so you'll see we have at least one Mac up in there, and also in my office. This is our team. I'm hoping that they're listening to me right now, but all of you should get back to work. That is Daniel Martin, one of our awesome medical students who's worked with us for the last 3 years. And so in his free time, a lot of time, they will come in on the weekends or whenever to help out with cases, which is really exciting for us. We actually find them because both myself and Dr. Ford teach the first year medical students in radiology. And so we teach them radiology. So we're able to train them and really kind of gauge their interest and then have them come work with us. So it's always a joy to be able to have that. And a number of the people who have done that have turned around and become our residents. And so we have them as residents right now, which just is kind of a self-feeding system. One of the other things we have done is set up a dedicated resident rotation. And so we have these workstations available, but the resident actually has a dedicated workstation. So there's never a concern of having a workstation not available to them. So this is actually the resident workstation here. And we have 1 month, every month we have a different resident rotating, usually a senior resident. But if we identify someone who's like really like a gung-ho person, we can get them in there even earlier. And this, you can see some of our Formlabs printers that we have. We have about 8 of them. We have them in a rack like this because Sarah actually has a lot of space compared to what we have. This actually was like, I think, an old office that we converted. And so we had to go up. And so we were really grateful to be able to go up with the prints and kind of model a rack like that. We do have a sink and cleaning stations here. So that makes it really nice to have that nearby. One of the other things I was going to mention is that we have packs for all of the hospitals that we work for. So we have access to the TGH packs, USF imaging facilities, our outpatient. So all of the packs are in our room. So if we get a call, we've had cases where they said this patient came into USF for a consult, but then they had surgery across the street at Tampa General, but now they're being followed at the outpatient facility and we're able to follow them. Our hospital is not that they're on the same system, so that makes it really nice for us to be able to not have to call around or run around. We actually have it all in the room. It also means that we have radiologists with us every single day, and they're in a reading room. We actually turn the lights on for you guys because normally the lights are out. So this just give you a little idea of what we have. This is our PACS area. I will draw your attention to the very beautiful windows that we have that we immediately blocked out, much to the ire of the rest of the building, because we have probably the most beautiful $1 million view out looking at Tampa Bay. And the first thing we did was come in and black out the windows. So as you drive up to our gorgeous building, you will see a strip of black and know that that is radiology. It does get a lot of comments. So I like to say we have Tom Brady's view because he lives right below us. But we just black all the windows out. This is our awesome J750 digital anatomy printer from Stratasys. It's working on a case that day. We also have storage. As Sarah was commenting, storage is very important for all your supplies, all of the materials, and keeping things tidy. I'm very funny about making sure that everything has a place, and so we got these awesome cupboards to be able to do that, and they've been very, very helpful. As you kind of go around our space, so we do have stuff going on in the other part of the hospital, but due to COVID, we were not able to film in there at this time. So I wasn't able to show any more of those areas across the street from us. We do have office space, so we are able to do consults all the time, and which makes it really nice. And this is our conference room, which we use for a lot of the consults. And also if we're talking to, say, All Children's Hospital or Moffitt, we can get on the computers here and communicate, show what we're doing. This is part of our view that we have blocked out. We often see Buccaneers or Tampa Bay Lightning players jet skiing out there. and we just wait in case any of them become a case so that we can go help. But during the Stanley Cup, they were actually racing their jet skis out there, so. And we get to sit and watch from inside. But no, it's a beautiful place to work, and I can tell you some of the days that you have, and which we all have, a bad day when you leave. And I watched one of my residents paddleboard past me with his dog. I think there are probably worse places to work out there, and especially it doesn't snow here, sorry, Sarah, so it doesn't snow. But anyway. So we actually, for our workflow, we have all of our stuff is in Epic. So the hospital has Epic ordering. And so what we get is I'll get an alert that something is coming to Epic for me. They will get a consult with me, and then we will talk about whether or not you need a visualization or whether just, you know, some type of data analysis, or augmented virtual reality, or the 3D print. So printing is just one aspect of what we do. We do a lot of like comparative pre and post-op type analyses for our clinical partners. Once we have the model made, we actually send them a 3D PDF so that they can take a look at it and give us an idea if that's what they exactly want. They sign off on it because I don't want to go to print without knowing for sure. We inspect the print, generally not this close, but at least up in your face. But yes, we do a full inspection of that. And then we actually, after this, we will meet with the referring team. That entails generally doing something like simulation, or maybe going to their residents, like in this example here, talking to them and training. This is Dr. Fadi Matar. He's the head of the cath lab here, and one of our heaviest users of our team. So he often will have us come present to like the multi-specialty teams, something like the heart team or the liver team. We present the case there, and often we go to surgery with them or go to the cath lab with them, and actually we'll carry the print and kind of go through what we've all discussed, and make sure that we're following the plan and everything. So that gives you a little idea of who we are, what we do. I have to admit, when I was asked to do this, I was really, really nervous, because I was thinking, I don't want to present and show how small our team is. We have been able to do great things in a little space, and that's what I want the message to be from here. Is I go around all over the US, and I talk to places who want to get started in 3D, and one of the things I always hear is, we just don't have a lot of space. There's the infrastructure is not there. You know, I don't know how we could even do it. I've been able to get places up and running with just a tiny little office. And people think that you have to have 10 million square feet and 400 printers to do this. You don't. And you can just, I started with a Z-Core 310 printer that was shared with the engineering department. So I would have to like sign up for time on their printer. And then my first printer that I bought as a faculty member was a CubeX Duo. And from there, that's where I grew. So it just takes one. And so what I was afraid of presenting to show how small we were, I actually want to show you guys that, because you can do great things from small spaces and be creative, as Sarah mentioned. And so I don't want anyone to think that space is the prohibitive factor, because you really, early on, the printer was in Dr. Ford's office, in the front part of his office, and that's what we had. So you can start with what you have, and we're all happy to answer questions about how we did it and got started and everything. So thank you for letting me present, and again, we're happy to answer questions.
Sarah and Summer, that was awesome. You know, it looked like a small script for a Hollywood movie too. I'm sure you will have some offers coming in soon once we post this into YouTube. Thank you so much. I think there's a question from Osama, but before we go that, I have a common question for both of you. That is, what kind of hurdles did you experience while setting up your lab?
Sarah, you want me to go ahead?
Sure.
Okay. I gotta be honest, probably the biggest hurdle was radiology. And I say this because radiologists often are not, this isn't their area. And a lot of them, when I came in, they were like, but I don't use 3D, so why would I need this? And I had to explain to them that this is a value-added opportunity for the field of radiology to take the data that they have and actually make it in a different form so that it helps surgeons, so that it helps our colleagues. I can tell you when I got started, I was offered a job straight into surgery, which they were drooling. They love this. This is awesome. And I said, I want to be in radiology. Radiology is where the data is. Radiology is where it should be. The SIG has made it very clear why this belongs in radiology. So my biggest hurdle was actually the radiology department, but now they're very, very gung-ho. Now they see the benefit for it. And one of the things that's been really wonderful is actually getting our residents involved in it, seeing the medical students get involved in it, because now we're creating a field for the future that people don't know anything different of this having been part of radiology. And so just last week, I gave the first lecture of medical school to my med students, and the first lecture was radiology, and we finished with 3D modeling and 3D printing. And those people will know to order for it in the future. And so I think the biggest hurdle is that I faced was internally, believe it or not, and then really kind of doing a proof of concept. But now you have all these teams around you like us that can talk to your people, that can talk to the lawyers, that can talk to the billing and everything like that. So there are people here to be able to help kind of navigate some of the stuff that we had to go through that you may not have to. Thank you.
Cool, and I'll just chime in too. And I think funding is a big elephant in the room with these labs and starting up and things like that. We were very fortunate that we have a quality fund grant that's an internal grant that we received 4 years in a row for about $900,000 to develop different parts of the program. So not everyone is as fortunate as that. And I kind of did some consults and things and you know, give some advice to people. And I think the biggest thing right now, we have the proof of concept. We have these larger labs that are thriving on this, and it's really benefiting the patient and benefiting the health system. So my biggest suggestion would be, if you're going to start up, maybe you don't have the space, maybe you don't have the money, start with outsourcing. Get some models in and just show your clinicians and your surgeons that this is useful to create that base and kind of justify a program as we can save this much instead of outsourcing all of this. And hopefully, I mean, space is always a thing as well. And when someone was saying, oh, my space is so small compared to Sarah, I hurried up and checked the attendees to see if any of my administration's on here, because I'm like, please don't listen to this. Our space is very, very small and we need more.
Oh,
no, I'm just kidding.
It's too tiny, Sarah, too tiny.
Very, very small. But yeah, I mean, yeah, and then the other thing is education. We are all in our lab, we're radiology technologists and CT or MR. So learning the engineering side of things and the CAD side and understanding quality management systems and what you should and shouldn't do with these printers. That was a huge hurdle for me to cross. And I'm very thankful for the SIG and all of the people around the US that are doing these labs that are so sharing and helpful and give you the information instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
Thank you, guys. I think there are two questions from Osama. The first one is he wants to know how far are the labs from the OR, and can you share some insights about marketing the labs and your workflow?
Sure. Our lab is within a few feet from some of the departments. And so from the actual OR, the ORs are in the next building because we're in the outpatient building, and so the main ORs, but we can be there within 2 minutes or so. And often we get that call of like, can you come quickly? Marketing wise, the images you saw at the end of my presentation are from the hospital's commercials. They use us in the commercials because patients understand it. They have used a lot of it this past year for COVID, so it's something that is very tangible. People ask for it because they recognize it in the commercials, and they will come to your hospital for it, which I think is really something special. So they've seen that it's a really big draw for really complex cases. And also the marketing comes from the clinicians we work with. Once they know wow, this worked for this type of case, they start redirecting patients. And so right now we're seeing a lot of that where they may have sent them to a different facility, but they now draw them to ours. So like I said, we work radiology and surgery are right beside each other in the hospital. And so the lab is maybe, you know, a few minutes away across the street, but we can be there within minutes.
Sarah, do you want to comment?
Sure. So our OR for this hospital is one floor directly above, one flight of steps. But we do have 14 hospitals. We have 3 major hubs. So we do have a really good courier system that if we need to get a model to this person the same day, we can internally. So I think it all depends on, I mean, it's not all about being right there. I mean, obviously it's awesome if the clinicians can come straight down and check out a consultation and things, but I think it's more about being present, especially with COVID and things like that. You're going to go through those hurdles and trying to do your consultations virtually, possibly. So as long as you are showing a presence and communicating the way you need to be, I think it wouldn't be an issue. And marketing wise, same as Summer, like just trying to get out there. When we first started 3D printing, not as many people understood it or knew about it. So I was kind of, you know, contacting them, doing the knocking on the doors and saying, hey, ortho, do you know we can do this? And it's not going to cost you anything. We want to see the value of this, and just kind of pushing this off onto them for a little bit until they decided that this is absolutely necessary and they need it. And some things it's not as useful for, some things it's very useful for. So you never know until you try and you're asking those people.
I think you just made a really important point, because sometimes people ask, how did you get them to start using it? And my chairman told me early on, he said, we're going to give it away until they can't work without it. And so I actually have a video that I show when I give talks for Grand Rounds of one of our surgeons on TV, and he says, I won't touch a case without it. And I show that to my residents because I'm like, there's your job security, guys. But for us, you know, we needed to make sure that they knew that it was there, it was a resource there, without having to wonder where the budget was coming from. So it's something that our department really made a concerted effort to put out there. We have been likened to the local drug dealers in that, because we're like, here, have this, and you know, eventually have to come back for funding. So, but it actually has been really successful, because there are people that would never have tried it unless we hadn't done that model. So,
and different use cases probably too, Summer, right? Absolutely, yeah. Things we would have not thought about. So
exactly.
Kind of the same drug dealer concepts. We gave that away, but then for every model, about 2 weeks after we hand it off to them, we send them a feedback summary, and they just give us our information. So that's pretty much what I say to them is, the model is free money-wise, but we need your information, we need your data, we need to know how this is useful so we can continue this. And about 2 years ago now, we put this whole portfolio together showing the cost savings and how useful the models are, and Radiology decided to fully fund the program indefinitely because it was such a resource to our patients.
Okay, thank you. There's another question from Rami, and it asks, are you able to bill any of the work to the departments requesting the service, and are you tracking through the registry?
I guess I can go. Yes, so we are tracking through the registry. I have people, actually, I know the putting in cases today, as a matter of fact. And also we have billed early on when there weren't CPT codes, and we weren't sure exactly how that would work. We were helping bundle with the surgical fees. So we would set up something with the other department. I know one of the hospitals we work with, the Department of Radiology at that hospital funds it, and the surgical team reimburses them. So we've been able to have to be creative, and we hope with the further advancement of the CPT codes that we'll be able to actually you know, make more formal than just with even Epic right now. That's part of what we're trying to do, is we're tracking all the usage. And so we are able to recoup some of the costs, and hope to be able to recoup all of the costs in the future.
Yep, we are currently not using the registry, but we are building the codes in Epic as we speak. And kind of like Summer said, you can always allocate your expenses to those service lines when you get to that point, but I wouldn't worry about any of that off the bat. I would just, you know, get them to figure out how it's useful and what use cases and what service lines you can use this for, and then go from there.
Okay, great. So another question which is, could you elaborate on savings as a result of use of 3D models? Either
Yes.
one of you, yeah.
Yeah, both of us probably have examples. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say what we are, the lowest hanging fruit is obviously reduced OR time, and then outsourcing versus providing the models in-house. Those are your two like absolute deliverables right now. But there are other things like patient outcomes, blood loss, things like that that are a little harder to try and figure out. We are in the process of getting some finite numbers down, but we're just using the feedback summaries right now and asking the surgeons, how much time do you think you saved on this case? Normally, these models are not for their bread and butter procedures, so it's kind of hard to gauge. It's a very complex procedure. Maybe the OR time was 24 hours and they maybe think it's down to 20 now. So it's all kind of up in the air right now, but the more information you gather and the more they are comfortable with this, I think it would come along from that. I'm not sure, Summer, if you're kind of similar or.
Yeah, I think like OR time is probably the biggest. I know I think somebody asked up above about what's our biggest usage. I would say cardiac and trauma. And with our trauma cases, we have a lot of elderly patients here with falls and things like that. And so we have like patients with multiple facial fractures that will get called on, or even gunshot wounds or something like that. And so some of the surgeries that we've been able to do, one of them I know for a fact, they estimated going in that this is an 11-hour surgery. It was the first print we ever did for them, being able to scrub it in using surgical grade material. And they were able to get in and out in 3 hours. And so not only did they document that, as Sarah's saying in their reports, hey, we were able to take it from not having to do all the fragments, glue things back together, wire things back together. We were able to sculpt from the print in the surgery. But then being able to then on the back end, say, hey, I was able to bring that down. That reduces operating time. They talked about the tools that they didn't have to touch. So it was a reduction of the tool use. How much infection risk the patient would have been on anesthesia and all these. So they noted all of that in there. And so that's been really helpful for us to actually have tangibles on that. And because of that, that started spreading. And so now a lot of those guys who do those cases start coming to us. And sometimes it's like, can you get that in an hour for me? That patient just came in, and you're like, no. But it's also training them of what cases will work. So a thing I cannot speak more highly of is appropriateness criteria, and really training the people that are using your, basically managing the expectations.
Thank you. I have another question for both of you. 3D labs are getting more and more, hospital-based 3D printing labs are getting more and more common. So what kind of background do you look for when you hire staff in your labs?
Go ahead, Sarah.
All right. Well, staff for 3D printing, you're looking at me right now. I have my lead in 3D imaging that's learning it. Currently, he's a CT technologist. And then I have a co-op senior high school student that's going into biomed engineering. But so I love to say like that we planned this whole journey, but we absolutely didn't. This fell into our laps. We were starting with 3D imaging, and a cardiologist asked us to segment something out for him to print on a printer. We figured out it was possible, and we grew from there. So I came into the training. So technologist based in our 3D print lab, and we will probably stay technologist based. I am currently going to Penn State for my Master of Engineering in Additive Manufacturing and Design to get that background as well. But I think all backgrounds complement each other. So all of these labs have someone different. They have medical illustrators, radiologists. They have some have cardiologists, technologists, everybody involved, and I think they all bring their own flair on it. So if I were to look for someone else, I would think, someone that can pick things up and learn more than their technical background.
I absolutely agree. My background, I actually have a PhD in medicine, specializing in pathology and imaging. I think there's probably one of me in the country because I don't know why anybody would do that track, except I was doing virtual autopsy type work. That was my background coming from the world of forensics. And we use 3D printing and forensics for evidence and not being able to handle evidence. And so that was kind of where I came from. However, my team, most of them are biomedical engineers. Dr. Ford, I can speak on, he has a PhD in biomedical engineering. But the big thing that I look for, because it's not just having a BME, is having a BME that has a basic understanding of anatomy and imaging anatomy, because I have hired a number of people in my time who didn't have that, and we are only as good as our segmentation. Obviously, our radiologists read off on everything and sign off, but you know, getting it to that point, you have to be able to trust your team. And so I know Dr. Ford has a master's of anatomy and medicine. We've had other engineers who've worked for us that have had anatomical backgrounds. So I think if I were starting out, the biggest thing I would say is definitely get someone who understands imaging. I highly recommend using the technologists because, I mean, who else better, really? I mean, they're ideal for that. And we have, especially now that we've established, we've had a number of our team here and our imaging volunteer to come learn what we're doing so that they can work with us. So I would really model what Geisinger has done, and also keep in mind you want to have people, if you are hiring an engineers or people like myself, that you have people that have the background, because anatomy is not just radiology. You know, you have to understand how it looks different on the screen. And that makes sense to all of us because we're all, this is a radiology call, but when you're hiring, not everybody thinks of that. And so I think that's really important. And that's why the SIG is very important on credentialing and education recommendations, because you know, the time is going to come that we have a malpractice case or something like that, and we're going to be questioned on what was the standard of education. And so we really want to make sure that we hold that for sure. So that's what we've done in our team, at least.
Okay, thank you so much to both of you. Are there any more questions from the audience, please? See one more. I guess there are no more questions, but thank you, Summer and Sarah. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for the excellent presentation. I think this is, I agree with you. The message here is start small and grow. That is the most important message. Don't think of buying high-end printers and not. You need to start small, show your work, and then grow. I think that's the key message here, which you both have delivered. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Before we end, I have few announcements to make. The one is about RSNA 2021. This year, we have a dedicated 3D printing session on Saturday, that is November 27th. This is new from previous years, so please attend that session. In addition, we'll have didactic sessions on Sunday, as well as hands-on workshop on Wednesday. The SIG business meeting will be on Monday, November 29th. More details will be available on the SIG website. In addition, we have also started a new RSNA 3D Printing Special Interest Group Research Seed Grant. The application deadline is September 30th, 2021. Please do apply for the grant. You will find more information about the grant on the SIG website. And finally, the RSNA 3D SIG CME originally planned for 2020 has been rescheduled, and it is rescheduled for April 22nd to 24th, 2022 in Chicago. And we will be posting more information regarding registration and abstract submission soon. Looks like we are almost right on time. If there are no more questions, we will conclude this webinar. And thank you again, Sarah and Summer, for a wonderful presentation. Really appreciate your work here. Thank you so much.